This morning we're going to head out to a couple of waterfalls near a town called Ladysmith. I was here I guess about a year ago now with my friend Colin, trying to get icicles on the waterfalls. It's a bit of a jaunt, just a couple of kilometers, but in the meantime, while we're hiking, why don't we have a little chat, Brian? So Brian is a bit odd. He still uses primes. So let's talk a bit about lenses, Brian. I used to use primes, mainly because back in the day zooms were not that great. They were, now and then you'd come across a half decent zoom. They were very, very heavy, so I used mostly primes. But of course, over the years, especially with the modern lenses, the zooms are getting really great, but also at the same time, so are the primes. They're getting to the point now where they don't weigh anything, and the quality is exceptional. So why do you still, like, what's your reasoning for still using primes?
Well, like you've just said there, primes, they're a lot smaller now and lighter, and they're sharp. But I like primes for finding my compositions over the zoom.
But don't you find that you have to do a lot more, like, back and forth, and
You've got to swap lenses more, which is obvious. But you can get a rough idea using your phone as well.
do you think you get a bit lazy if you use zoom lenses?
Yeah, I feel that your photography is a bit more static, whereas a prime makes you move about.
Oh, that's a good point. I guess what Brian's saying is, you know, if we're using a zoom, you tend to just stay in one area and don't move from that area and just zoom in and out until you get something. As where if you have a prime, you're saying that...
If you see someone using a zoom, you'll notice that they're just in the same spot,
right,
zooming in and out, whereas you see someone working with a prime, you've got to get in different positions. I just think you come up with better ideas.
But couldn't you just take a picture with a wide angles prime on a 100 megapixel camera and then just crop it?
Well, that's what you do, but no, but the crop thing, it's a good point. People can crop more now, but yeah, even if you crop, you're not gonna get the angle,
right,
that you truly wanted, you know.
Yeah. Can you hold that for a sec? My arm's starting to... I have to hold my arm up. Just shows you how weak I am. I'm holding an Osmo and my arm's getting burnt out. Hey, don't touch my head like that. So how many prime lenses do you have?
I've got...
Or how many do you carry in your bag at one time?
I've got 3 with us today, but I've got 5. 5?
So that... No, I have carried Brian's bag, and it is very heavy, so
that's the big lens, and
oh, right,
the other camera and tripods for vlogging.
I think Brian's bag actually weighs more than mine, and I'm carrying a GFX, but I only have the three zoom lenses. Now granted, the 45 to 100 is a heavy lens, and I have considered actually purchasing the 35 to, I think it's the 70, which is a very small lens, kind of a, I guess you'd call it their kit lens, but I have used it, and it's a good lens just for traveling and if you want to really cut down on that weight. So there'd be the 20 to 35, the 35 to 70, and then the 1 to 200. So what focal lengths do you have then?
I've got the 1 to 400 with us today.
Yeah.
14mm.
Yeah.
24mm and a 35.
Okay.
And then the others I've got 85 and a 50, but they're for me street photography.
So you don't feel like you miss those mid-range?
No, not really, no.
Okay.
Zoom with your feet.
Right.
You know?
Right. So there you go, folks. zoom versus primes. Which do you prefer? Alrighty, we made it. This is Christie Falls. It's a beautiful little waterfall. I think I have photographed it, well, twice now. Once in the summer and once with Colin in the winter. It's a beautiful little waterfall, but I must admit I've always had a bit of trouble with it because it's just a waterfall. I've never been able to find anything too interesting around the perimeter. That's not to say that there isn't something here, but I haven't been able to be creative enough to find it yet. Now there is another waterfall behind me. I think I'm going to spend more time on that one. It has a lot of logs and debris around it, so I think I might be able to find something to go with it. Brian's just gone up the back here. There are a couple of large trees, so maybe I could see if I could find something up there and look down. I'm not sure. The only thing that I can see is perhaps a close-up shot of the actual water, maybe a pano or just a close-up area, kind of like what I did in the winter. Alrighty, found a really good angle on this waterfall. Brian had come down here and he came to the bottom of this lower waterfall here, and he said it wasn't that great, but I thought I'd come and have a look anyway. He's not wearing welly boots, and I decided to wade across the stream here. Of course, I got a boot full of water, but it's a great angle because not only can I get this lower waterfall, but I can also get the upper one as well. The only problem is, I mean, it looks spectacular, but it's just a photograph of a waterfall. I'm having trouble finding something to put with it to make it unique. It just looks kind of like a snapshot. I am trying to zoom into the center portion there. I quite like that. The other problem I'm finding is that there's a lot of debris, a lot of sticks and trees in the way, so I might have to clone some of those out. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful, but just a picture of a waterfall. Now, if I go down lower, there's some interesting logs at the bottom there. Problem is, as soon as I start to get lower, then we lose the upper waterfall. Behind me here is also quite lovely as well. Let me just bring this down a little bit. This section down here, that's really quite nice as well. Anyway, I'll see if I can get some shots here and I'll post them. If I don't have much luck here, then I'll head over to the first waterfall. Okay, so I think part of the problem was I was getting so excited about including the waterfall in the background that I wanted to get as high as possible and just try and get a shot of the whole waterfall. But as I mentioned, I don't think it really works because it's just a photograph of a waterfall. Excuse me. So I've come down a bit lower and now I'm looking back and I'm putting a little bit more thought into the scene. The excitement has kind of gone down a bit, and I think I found a much better composition. Just below me here, I'll just show you here, there's a couple of logs strewn right across the foreground here, and I think I'm going to use those in the foreground. I think the reason why I like a bit of a foreground is because it really adds context to the scene or to the location. If you just have a waterfall, it could be anywhere, and of course it could be anywhere with these logs here, but there's not many places in the world where you're going to find big old trees like this lying in front of a waterfall. I think it adds some depth and also some extra interest that we were lacking up higher. So I've included the logs in the foreground, this nice waterfall here, and you can still see a slither of the upper waterfall, which is actually much bigger than this. The problem I'm having with the light is that I'm shooting directly into the sun, and if I occlude any of the sky, it's just too jarring. So I'm just going to eliminate as much of the sky as possible. So this is the dominant waterfall here with the foreground. Also, a polarizer in this case is really important. There is a lot of sheen on the logs and the rocks, and we have some movement in the foreground foliage as well, in this cedar. So what I'll have to do there is take a couple of shots at a faster shutter speed, higher ISO, and I'll paint those in afterwards. Because I think for me right now the best shutter speed is around a second. I kind of like that really smooth transition with the waterfall. Well, let's see how it goes. It's going to be a horizontal. I don't know, I really like the look of it behind the camera, so let's see how it looks in the final image.
Well, this was a bit of a disappointment. The composition works quite well with the foreground, but I really feel that I should have perhaps listened to my gut feeling or intuition and given more room or more space at the top of the frame where the waterfall is. It just feels like it's really cramped in there. Also, you may have noticed in this raw file that I got a great exposure on the waterfall, but because of the slow shutter speed, the foliage on the right side is moving around considerably. So what I did in this case is I took another exposure, faster shutter speed, higher ISO to stop the movement in that foliage. Now, luckily for me, I did decide to take a number of other images where I included much more of the sky, and of course they turned out quite a bit better. But if you would like to see more images where things haven't quite worked out the way I'd planned, let me know in the comments down below, and in future videos I'll try and do that, because I think that probably in the long run it's probably more beneficial to my audience to show my fails rather than continued successes. Let me know down below.
As usual, having a hard time. I guess if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. One of the problems with this waterfall is that it's extremely messy, and there were a lot of branches behind this main stump, or this main trunk here, with all the salal and the ferns on it. So I waded in there and managed to get rid of all the branches so I don't have to clone them out afterwards, and it looks way better. So what I'm doing here, I love the cascade below the log here, and then of course then we have the log with all the growth on it, the salal, and then the waterfall. Pretty simple shot. I'm doing a vertical 4x3. Again, I'll have to do multiple exposures because there is a lot of movement. There's a little cedar sapling there that's moving around a lot. So my shutter speed for the waterfall is around 1 second, and then I've upped the ISO to 3200. And I've opened up the f-stop to around 5.6, and that gives me a shutter speed of around 200th of a second. So I'm able to stop the motion in that vegetation, and I'll just sandwich that in afterwards. Yeah, it's a beautiful little scene. Probably have to warm it up quite a bit, but looks like the sun is trying to come out. So I think that might be it for today. Brian wants to get in here and retake a shot since I've cleaned it out. So I'll put the image up right now and you can tell me what you think of it. Alrighty. So how did it go, Brian?
Yeah, I enjoyed it up there. It'd be nice to have more time, but we'll push for time today.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to ask you a question about your lenses, just to kind of finish this video off. If you were just starting out, and well, let's go with the primes first. If you were just getting into photography, what would you recommend? Like, what would be the first focal length that you would purchase? I guess it depends on the subject matter, doesn't it? Let's just say for landscape photography.
Prime lens is 24mm. I like 24mm.
Yeah. So that's what you'd start with.
Yeah, because you can get some nice wide shots, and you can also get close to your foregrounds and exaggerated foregrounds, and so
Okay.
you've got an option. You can get really close with it, but you can also go for the wider vistas as well.
Okay, and then what would be your second choice for a prime lens? Like next up from there?
Prime, I like 35mm.
35, so all kind of like the wide angle end of things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, for a zoom lens, I started with 70-200.
Okay.
Which is, great focal length.
So would you recommend that for someone just starting out, or would you recommend, say, like see, if I was just starting out and you only had one choice of, say, zoom lens, I think I'd probably go with the 24-120 in that kind of range.
Yeah. It covers your bases, doesn't it? That sort of focus range.
Yeah, I mean, when I was with my Nikon lens, I just had the kit lens, and I used the 24-120. That was probably my most used lens.
Yeah.
So I think I would probably recommend that, but you would recommend something a little bit wider, is that right?
Well, I suppose it's because I've shot with Sony for a long time now. Once I got the 24mm prime,
Yeah.
I was just finding different compositions to what I would with the zoom, so that's why I stick with the primes. I think if I was starting out, I would have a zoom, because that's what I had. I had the 70.
So would you go for the 24-120 in that range, or would you go for something a bit wider? Okay.
Yeah, that's a good range.
Took a long time to get that one out of him, didn't it?
Yeah, it's a good range.
All right. Well, let us know down below what you guys, I'm sure everybody has their preferences and their choices, so let me know down below what your recommendations would be for someone just starting out in photography. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching, and be sure to check out Brian's channel if you haven't done so already, and until next time, cheery bye.
See you later, guys.